Children were gathered in Hing Park yesterday, where I play ping pong occasionally, leading me to ask myself if the teachers wanted me to address the children on the subject of the incident in Texas in a town that looks like a scribble of the word Ukraine, Uvalde or something. What would I say? Well, since they're children, it would be very difficult to um, counter the feeling of necessitating maturity. So I'm sure I know what needs to be said, but it needs to be said also to adults. I live in a city called Tacoma, which is about an hour bus ride from Seattle when the weather is favorable and the traffic is normal. It has a reputation for having a subculture of cruel, illegal dog fighting, for example. If you're like me, you can't understand the cruelty that would lead someone to hurt an animal sadistically, much less another person. And I have witnessed inside and out, meaning the mindset included, of people who become this way. Those who know me, there's a fair number because I am, after all, pedestrian. I don't drive. And I am a blogger online, although I'm not a very popular one. And I've been to a number of schools. People who know me realize I like the human race. I'm friendly with people. I look for the best in people. I give people an opportunity and a fair shot. I've also been targeted violently and subject to a number of cruelties. And I understand how it evolves into a philosophy. And the dumbheads start trying to vie with each other to be more distant. Who is more detached? Who is more implacable? Who is the greatest monster? Finally, who is the most cold blooded? And, we have a society that's shifty in a lot of ways politically. Like the Republicans came out with this slogan, the Democrats were trying to scare seniors. And no sooner did they get the upper hand with a slogan about scaring seniors that they actually went on the air asking seniors to do their patriotic duty and die of COVID. Now, what I'm here to discuss, of course, is these are commonplace political arrangements that exist in our society. They shouldn't, but they do. And one of the reasons is because of media. It's an entertainment system that majority of people subscribe to without investigation. So, what I want to talk about most of all is the hidden transcript in the incident in Texas, which I believe is there, and how to go about forestalling the day that it gets the upper hand over us subconsciously. Now, what I'm trying to do is safe walk my peers. It's not just the children that concerns me, it's the adults, it's my classmates and the younger generation, the people who are being subject to all of this. I want to safe walk you as best as I possibly can through this minefield of hallucination that's been built in the name of the entertainment lobby they call news. Um, the hidden transcript that exists in Texas has a certain capacity to be very engaging of the imagination as though it just happened. As though there's some sort of subliminal artificial intelligence that's revelatory. And one of the things is the story of the killer coming in, locking eyes, and saying good night. You're supposed to put yourself in their shoes. Another example is the cop who said, "Tell us when you want to get help." And the girl calls for help and gets shot. And the message is, if you try to get help, you will be killed. Okay, so this is an example of the hidden transcript, but who's responsible for it? It's the Ouspensky Circle. It's a leapfrogging council of oligarchs working with Axis Hollywood on grotesque projects like climate change, COVID 19, the AIDS attack, the assassination of liberal leaders in America. The Ouspensky Circle has a book of Clint hurdles. They believe in inducing trauma, and the survival emerges as a Superman. So, fear, the panic at the abyss, all of these things are stationary elements of the human machine that need to be triggered and awakened for the human being to become enlightened. And this hostility towards fair play and good conduct towards the human race focuses in on the idea that if you give one person the privilege of recognizing them as a human being with rights, you take it away from others. You relegate them to expendability status, or as the slaves more generously were accruing to being 3/5 of a man, in the status of Palestinians in Israel. A certain percentage of human dignity is accorded, saved for them. And this, of course, comes up against the gargantuan megalopolis machinery of the sucking at the economy by the arms merchants and the equal opportunities employers at Exxon, and the feminazis with their sadistic stick about monsters being great heroes looking for billionaires and all this stuff. And there are personality cults that predominate in the airwaves and so on. And this isn't to say there isn't some noble history to some of these ideas. I'll give you two examples. Francis Parkman was an American historian. After his son died, he became beset with heart problems, water on the knee, arthritis, and he called his complex of infirmities the enemy, and he set forth to defeat it by focusing himself on his work. Nobly and generously according himself the dignities of office, he continued to carve and work on his studies. Now, this is an example of someone who arrived at the decision to preserve his own dignity. However, what we're dealing with are people who are prescriptively inflicting infirmities, violating the Hippocratic Oath, the American Medical Association's vow, and the American Library Association's dignities by denying us the right to document what they've done. And one of these was a guru of Ouspensky named Gurdjieff, who flipped Mark Twain's Letters from the Earth, which was a satire about the devil winking at the archangels about how funny the human beings were. And he was saying, you think it, Kennedy had what was known as a self-deprecating humor, and his antagonist came up with, aha, you think that by making light of it, you make it less true, but in reality, it is even all the more so true. So when Gurdjieff wrote Beelzebub's letters to his grandson, it was as if to say, there really is a devil making fun. So what they did was say, Francis Parkman, thou shalt be Job, the book of Job, and that prescriptively meant so that we can tutor you in the divine intelligence of accepting that you have been relegated to subhuman status. which is the undercurrent of the mind of persons like Tony Levin of King Crimson, who's been a viper in the Ouspensky circle for as long as I have been aware of them. So now you can't completely exonerate Chinese authorities in all of this because Apple Corporation and Ringo Starr have an aptitude for turning stories like Francis Parkman's into Confucius parables. The Asiatic Shamish now in tones, you know, the prescriptive idea of of having a long wait, some of them, for the sacred enlightenment of the hero pass, where, of course, Grab Abbott will hold a final fundraiser and say it could have been worse. So, and the Ukraine is a parameter that they established, a battle royal. I'm on record as discussing the battle royal from before the incident in Uvalde, Texas, or whatever it is, the Ukraine Texas parameter, which appears to have had the inside of the, you know, old bigot sheriffs, you know, keep people out, give them some time to show his, demonstrate his lesson plan, you know. So, and they've used me as an artificial intelligence bot. A couple of them, Jordan Peterson and George Soros and Elon Musk, all stepped up to the YouTube microphone. Clue us in, queer balls, they're standing in your material. Well, here you go.